I think are extremely important. So today's training number 266, titled Dealing with Negative People. Dealing with negative people. And hopefully you guys are in a position to take some notes, because what I'm getting ready to share with you, I believe will make a difference. It will help your life. Look, if you're dealing with some negative people in your life, drop a 111 inside that chat box. You got some people, it could be even a spouse, it could be a family member, it could be a coworker, it could be somebody on social media, right? It's taking all this time and responding to people, and it's kind of, you feel like it's actually bothering you. Put a 111 inside the chat box, because I want to talk about really how to deal with them and how to move on and move forward and be successful, because the reality is you're always going to have negative people around you, toxic people, people who are gossiping and backbiting and judgmental and critical and all that kind of stuff. I've had it in my life. It's probably always going to be around, but I want to talk about some of the solutions to this and how you guys can deal with these situations in a healthy way. So, I get asked this one all the time because of the industry that I'm in. What if my spouse is negative? If you have a spouse or significant other, and some of you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend and say, they're pretty negative about me being an entrepreneur, starting a business or doing trading, calling it gambling, a scam, a pyramid scheme. Here's what I tell people. Don't talk about your business. Be quiet and work. Sometimes the reality is we just kind of got to shut up and put in the work. But we want to convince these people to come to the event. We want to convince these people that what we're doing is good and that it's right and all this kind of stuff. They're not going to be convinced. The way that you're going to convince those people is to show the fruit. They want to see the results. They want to see the check. That's it. So go get the results. All right. And so one of the things that I found, and by the way, I haven't had to deal with this myself. I've had a spouse who's very supportive, but I have met a lot of people who do not have a supportive spouse. But I can say this. If I was not successful, my wife would still support me, but maybe she wouldn't like my ventures very much. Does that make sense? So she would want to see the results of what this is actually going to do for our family. Okay. So this is one of the ways is, again, don't talk about it, put in the action, put in the work, and get the results. Okay. Now, what if my coworkers, what if I have family members who are negative about my business? Here's the answer. Ignore them. All right. Ignore them. And I know in the beginning, it's really hard because it's like you're wanting to prove, kind of put it in their face. You want to show that new watch, that new car, that new trip, the new house, whatever. You're wanting to show the stuff to them, kind of put it in their face and put them in their place. Right. But I say, ignore them. Let your results do the talking. Be quiet and work. Let your results do the talking. Okay. Because it's kind of like Michael Jordan said, my actions on the court did the speaking for me. He didn't have to go on, they didn't have Twitter at the time, Facebook, but he didn't have to go on social media and basically tell people how great he was. He said, my actions on the court speak for me. You want your actions in life and the business to speak for you. One day, when these people see the results of who you have become, which by the way is actually the most important thing, who you become along the way is actually the most important point of the whole thing, is that they see a change in you, change of mindset, change of attitude, change of behavior. Right? You have goals now. You're kinder to people. You're hardworking, right? So the person that you have become is the most important thing, even more than just the fruit. So they see that first. What you have achieved is another important thing, because you are going to achieve. Some of you are achieving right now, but others are not. But it's going to happen. The results, those achievements are going to happen. And guess what? They will speak for you. I can't always say in the beginning that my family was super supportive. Now, a couple of them were, but others wanted me to go to school and finish and get my degree. And by the way, I actually have no problem with that. My dad was a college professor, amazing individual, phenomenal human being, but I wasn't going to take the same path. And I would never tell people, don't go to school, get your degree or whatever. I think for most people, they need to have the education, and for what they're going in, they've got to have the training, right? Now, for me, I knew that my results would eventually happen, but I also knew it was going to take time. And guess what? It actually took me longer than I thought. I thought the first year I was going to make six figures. Guess what? I didn't. My first year I didn't. So I needed a job. I got into sales, made great money in sales. I actually only worked a job for 2 years, made really good money in that job. In fact, there's 2 jobs. And, but then I just said, I got to get out of this and just do my own thing. And I knew that the results would eventually speak for themselves. So that's how to deal with that. Now, here's the strategy part, because again, you always got the diagnosis, but then there's got to be the prescription, right? But a lot of people are trying to provide a prescription when they don't even have a diagnosis. It's like the person could have some sickness, you're giving something else that's not even going to help them. Here's the strategies that are going to help you guys. Number one, very important, stay positive, stay optimistic. Okay. And I know it's really hard sometimes when you're going through hard times, whether it be a relationship, business, trading, whatever it is that you do, to stay optimistic. And in fact, some of you are probably like, I'm positive that I'm pissed off. I'm positive that I'm in a bad mood. It can be easy to get drawn into negativity. It's almost natural, to be drawn into the negativity. You think of how people are talking about the government and politics and all these different things going on. It's easy to kind of fall into the negativity. All right. But it's important to maintain a positive outlook. See, I see the news, but I'm not inundated by it. It's not affecting me. I keep moving forward. I keep a positive outlook. You focus on the good things in your life. You try and stay optimistic. Whatever we focus on expands. Guys, you got to be in the appreciation room, not the depreciation room. And I say some of that because, not just for business, but for relationships. Focus on the good things in your life. You'll get more of what you focus on. If I just keep focusing on all the problems with my spouse and my kids, which by the way, there are endless opportunities to be frustrated when you're raising a family. No question about it. But when I focus on my gratitude list, some of you guys saw recently on social media, I actually posted the things that I'm grateful for. I look at that 2 times a day to remind myself of how I'm extremely grateful for what it is that I have in my life. Okay. So stay positive. Number 2 is to set boundaries. Number 2 is to set boundaries. So go ahead and write this one down, because I think that this one is also important. Let's go ahead and bring this up. Strategy number 2, to set boundaries. Because my personal feeling is this: if someone is being overly negative or critical, it's important to set boundaries. And here's how you do it. Kindly, lovingly, let them know that their behavior is not acceptable and that you're not going to tolerate it. Now, you guys can put it in whatever words that you want. That's kind of the way that I do it. Just say, look, I can't hear this anymore. I can't keep hearing this and reading this every single day, right? Like, this is toxic. This is draining my energy. Okay. So it's important to set boundaries. You have certain people who are blood suckers. They are draining the very life out of you, right? And so sometimes, and now some people say, well, how do you set boundaries with your spouse or your significant other or your business partner or whatever? Guys, you got to do the same thing. Let that spouse, let that significant other, let that business partner know, I can't keep hearing this stuff. This is draining all my joy. Let's focus on the positive. I'm not saying with a spouse, you just got to go get divorced. I'm not saying that. Now, for some people, it's probably necessary depending on their situation, but let them know that you cannot handle the toxicity anymore in your relationship. Okay. And this could be people on social media as well. Okay. Strategy number 3, listen and show empathy. Sometimes negative people just need someone to listen to them. They love to hear themselves talk. They love to tell you about all the things going on. They are victim mindset. They're not a victor, they're a victim. So here's the thing. And for anyone who contacts me, they know I'm definitely a listening ear. I think I've had a lot of people tell me that I should have gone into like therapy, been a counselor or something like that, but there's not enough money and I don't want to be dealing with people's problems all day. Okay. But I try and be understanding. I try and be empathetic. I try and be sympathetic. But here's the difference. I don't let their negativity affect my mood. Now, it used to. If I had a sibling that said something, a coworker that said something, maybe my business partner said something that kind of bothered me, my spouse said something, sometimes people just need to be listened to. Again, be understanding, listen, be empathetic, but do not let their negativity affect your mood. And again, if someone is toxic enough, you're going to have to first create distance from them. And so for some, you have to actually eliminate them from your life. And I'll be as bold to say that. For some, you're going to have to eliminate them from your life. It's sad to say, but it's the truth. That's what's going to happen. Okay. Strategy number 4. Don't take it personally. Negative people, a lot of times they say hurtful things, but it's important to remember that most of the time you realize it's actually not about you. It's actually about them. So their negativity, that's actually a reflection of their own issues and insecurities. It's hard for people to hear that, right? They have their own issues. And so sometimes what we're doing, like externally, like our attitude and behavior, it actually shows how we feel on the inside. Sometimes how we dress on the outside is actually how we feel on the inside. So for me, I've tried very hard in my life to not take it personally. People are going to say rude things, they're going to say hurtful things, but just remember, a lot of times they're lashing out because they themselves are hurting. Hurting people hurt people, right? So the negativity they have, that's a reflection of they have issues, they have their own insecurities, and you just happen to be kind of that target board that they're throwing darts at, okay? But try very hard to not take it personally. I know that's very difficult, especially today, like on social media, people taking offense all the time. The words that you use, the tone of your voice, it's almost this culture, this society to constantly be offended all the time and to take it personal, right? Try very hard. This really takes new habits and discipline to overcome this one, okay? And then strategy number 5 is you want to limit your exposure. And I want to spend just a little bit on this one as we close this training, okay? Limit your exposure. If someone is consistently negative, they're bringing you down, it may be best to limit your exposure to them. Don't be responding to their texts or be slow to respond to their messages. Don't take all their phone calls, right? They're hitting you up all the time. You may need to limit your exposure. Again, remember I talked about creating distance. You're trying to create distance. You don't respond as much. And guess what? They will eventually get the message when you don't respond much to that you don't want to hear it anymore. Now, in a lot of situations, just so you realize, you don't have to cut people out of your life and say, hey, I'm cutting you out. I'm going to block you. Now, some people need to be blocked, right? But you don't have to cut them out of your life completely, but you can choose to spend less time with them. Create distance. And this is a very important point. That's why I want to say, kind of over the bold heading, limit your exposure. How much you talk to them, how much you associate with them. Are you responding to all their messages? Are you doing it out of obligation because you have the shame and guilt that you don't respond to them, that they're going to get angry at you? Now you realize that they may be narcissistic. They may be controlling you, that if you don't respond, hey, how, putting question marks, why are you not responding? So now you feel this guilt and shame, like I got to respond to them or they're going to be upset with me. Stop living a life of being controlled. You don't need to be controlled by other people, right? There's enough people trying to tell people what to do. And you get this choice of who it is that you want to spend your time with. My friends, remember, you can't control other people's behavior, but you can control your own reactions. It's like I tell people, you can't control all your circumstances, but with your mind, you can learn to control your circumstances, your mind and your actions. So you focus on your own positivity and you don't let negative people bring you down. You want to stand up. You want to be a light to other people, right? Don't let people control your life. Do not let people steal your joy. And as the Bible would say, don't let these people spoil your well. Don't let these people spoil your well. That is my message for you guys today on how to deal with negative people. Guys, if you got some value out of this, put value inside the chat. Every Tuesday, I share a message with you about life and how to build a business. And sometimes in your business, you're going to be dealing with negative, toxic people. And that's a reality. And hopefully with some of the strategies that I've shared with you guys today, that this will help you moving forward with a spouse, significant other, a coworker, someone on social media, a family member, and so on and so forth. So look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday on our call, and hope that you guys have a fabulous day and have a great week. We'll talk to you very, very soon. Thanks, everyone.